there's a need for assistance in finding funders for Nigerian content or what we call ancillary content, I can also provide help in shoring up that capital as well. And then using partners that are going to actually comply with with what XM wants the interest rates to be. And that's actually a part of the thing. When you get that LOI, the LOI says this is the rate, this is what's going to happen. And any funder that's going to actually participate in this project will probably comply with XM's request for interest. Now, we can't control banks, but we can influence them, right? If the XM Bank is 60%, taking 60% of risk, and I'm telling this bank, look, you take 30% risk, and you're going to do it at the rate I said do it, most likely they don't want to do that, right? And most likely they'll work. So there's nuances to the finance, but basically there's a solution. I have not ever not found a solution, right? Unless somebody just quit, right? The only time I've ever failed is when the currency risk scares someone from doing their project. That's the only time that.
When I see Delta cannot leave Nigeria.
Cannot.
United left and they are back. I do hope that this serves as some kind of way forward, or the way they see things over time. That Africa has not been put in the right place, and particularly for Nigeria. Nigeria's population and the market is huge.
Huge. That's right.
Well, my question is, I'm not a financial expert, but then I started wondering, how do you plan your feasibility report based on a moving CCIR, if you see what I mean? So maybe somebody can help me in how that works out, because at the time of conception you do a feasibility report, but then the rates will change. So that's my first question. Okay. The other thing I have is, you talked about aircraft. It didn't talk about non-aircraft products in the aviation portion. A hangar, for example. An FBO for another one, because I see that right now, and I hope I'm not giving free information here, that because of what is happening at the Lagos airport, 2 FBOs are going to be, they're going to be taken out. Does that qualify for aviation?
So what's FBO? Yeah, you gotta tell me what that is.
An FBO is a fixed-based operator, but usually is a hangar, and people can park their airplanes, people can get offices, and the rest of it. Please permit me not to mention the names of some FBOs.
Now, as for the Airbuses, depending on the percentage, right? The percentage calculation for the manufacturing, if the percentage calculation is more than 51% U.S. content for the total cost of the product, then it's an American product. It qualifies, right? It just has to, the 51% thing is the only measure by which they have kind of made it. If it's 51% U.S. content in an Airbus that's owned by France, it's still a U.S. product, right? Especially if it's shipped from the U.S. But we can get around that with the aviation guys, because they got a specific group in XM Bank that handles aviation sales and things of that nature. We can have specific depending on the specifics of the thing, we'll have conversations with them to make sure that things qualify. Because I have to run it through them regardless. regardless of if they're gonna have to deal with those guys on doing their issue. And that equipment, that kind of equipment. So,
Okay, I want to add to that. You see, for the 51% US content, it also includes not just the aircraft now. Even if the aircraft on its own doesn't attain 51%, we have, if it's owned or being sold by a US entity, that's important. It wouldn't be sold by a company in France. It would have to be sold by a company in the US. So if it's being sold by a company in the US, it's a different response to the 51%, because that company would have done some work on it. It could be purely administrative. Maybe they've maintained it while in their custody. I'm not even talking used, new. They've purchased, they have it, they are running an entire operation to keep it available for the next buyer. All that cost, all the salaries they're paying for their operations allocated to that aircraft will come into the content, the US content. So until we get to the point where we give them that form for them to identify whether that equipment qualifies, we will never know. And more often than not, because of these ancillary costs that come into the calculus, they may just do that, even for Airbuses.
true.
And if it's used, that's even easier. If say Southwest was selling Airbus, right? Then in all likelihood, we have more than 51% already, right? Now, for the construction, you may wonder how that would work. But we know that if we get a Nigerian company to work side by side, a Nigerian construction company, to work side by side with a US construction company, we will get our construction company contracts, projects funded. Rear Admiral Koja is nodding his head because he knows. It's in progress, so he knows. So if you have real estate construction, that, at first glance you may think it's not practical for 51% US content. Please don't. Talk to us first and let's tell you it's not possible.
The 51% thing that they put as standard, but the reality of the situation is about, you consider what the economic impact is, right? So my purpose, right, the purpose of the United States in stating that means that the revenue flows from the loan, from the loan structure back into the U.S. If that happens, it'll qualify. Yeah. Right? It'll qualify. Basically, you just trying to make the loop. So the loop gotta be, I'll loan you the money.
Give it to you.
I give it to you.
Yeah.
And you send me back 51% of it. That's exactly what, plus interest. So that's how the loop works. And so all of the nuances, right? All of the nuances work for that, to make that happen. To make the cash come from the United States into Nigeria and back into the United States. If that loop exists, it's going to be approved, period, in the story. We got a million. If we had every little nuance that we have to get this stuff done, we would have been there in like 2 days.
Yeah.
There are a lot of layers to the onion from this thing, but the fact is, if that loop, that financial loop is what we're looking for, right? That's what they look for. That's how they're going to evaluate the projects. That's exactly how they're going to do that. So we got 3 more. We got to get 3 more.
Yeah, balance.
Yeah.
All right, so about 30 to 40% Nigerian content that you talked about earlier. I was wondering if that component is not really Nigerian content, if it was going to be coming from a different country, say Chinese, for example, I say that because of what you talked about. I know, but if that was the
C
case,
word.
would
C word.
would we still get that project funded?
Yes.
The answer is actually yes.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, because you know why?
We're not discriminating.
Because the other 30% is not coming from Exim.
Well, not
That's not
We're
directly.
looking for some counterpart funding.
Yeah, but it's not coming directly
from
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 that.
even if we compel or ask someone who is a registered Exim banking partner, right, guarantee partner, to fund it, that loan is not going to be an Exim Bank. It'll be subject to the Exim Bank terms, but it will, in that case, just be a loan between you and that bank itself, right? The bank itself. And I can't even tell you that you won't find like Chinese agriculture bank as one of Exim's partners. I can't sit up here and tell you that that's not that. No, we're not. No, I can't even tell you that. They might have went and got certified, but I ain't ready to listen to all the time. But I can tell you, they might actually, most likely, they're partner anyway. So.
All right, the gentleman.
Thank you. My question is, is about the fees. Are they flexible and are they negotiable? The fee, I saw a fee somewhere. Yeah, are they flexible and is it negotiable?
Oh, what you mean, like
It's-
commission fees?
Was in Mr. Bab's presentation.
Yeah, there was a presentation. So I saw a fee.
Well, I made it clear that we have our fees, which is 1% of whatever loan is approved, not the project. Because if they approve 70% and you come up with your own 30%, we only have 1% of the 70%. If we assist you to get the other 30%, then it's 1% of.
Yeah. It might not have been clear.
That's on our side. On their side, our side is US, it's Nigerian content, right? Their side is US content. Now, if you want to negotiate, you will speak to them and negotiate what you can. But we are like the supermarket. You don't go to the supermarket and
Nigeria now, supermarkets are
not numeric supermarket, no. But seriously, it's not cheap to do this thing. And what we are trying to work on, right, is to make sure, because the way it was going to play out was, we're going to be paid in cash, right? But we're trying to now work around that to make it part of the loan, so that it's paid over an extended period by you, but we would have earned ours early, you understand? So your repayment will be over an extended period, but we will earn our commissions, our fees upfront, yes. Just the way they earn theirs upfront too, but it's part of the loan.
Would yours be in Naira, since you're
Yes, ours is in Naira, but you see, we also have a policy of hedging the Naira. Now I'll explain it. The way it stands. By the time I return from the United States, the story may be different. I'm going with them on Monday. Sunday, we arrive on Monday. By the time I get there, the story may be different. But as it stands, that's what it is, right? That, you pay us, I think it's something like 60% in dollars. Yeah, 60% in dollars and 40% in Naira.
not negotiable?
No.
For now.
No.
Okay, I think that would be behind the scene.
Well, I don't wear hoods.
You don't wear what?
So, it's transparent. I'm saying it before everyone.
Okay, yeah,
right?
that's fine, that's fine.
So that's what it is. It's actually not negotiable. It's painful, but it's joyous pain. Because what you are going to earn out of this is greater than our 1%.
I'm Jamil. Thank you, sir. Okay. I'm also from the US. I came in last night. Okay, I was told about you coming here, and I already have a project which has been going on here in the area of the healthcare. As a matter of fact, it's all been set, ready to go. I just wanted to know how I could fit your team in with what I have already been doing in Nigeria. We already have 100-acre land, which is set for medical tourism, established already just right outside Lagos, on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Okay, so, and everything is all done, ready to go. But I just wanted to know how, with having someone in Nigeria, and how they can get to be able to work, especially with the type of money we could get from the Exim Bank, and see how we can roll that into the type of interest that would make it possible for us to be able to get things done and do it with, especially with the changing exchange rates, and to see how easy it would be or convenient it would be for us to be able to get our own side of the story done. I'm not worried about the American aspect because you're all talking to an American, okay, and everything is all American. As a matter of fact, we'll be meeting the Joint Commission standard. I already signed a non-disclosure with Mayo Clinic to be a part, okay, which will be here along with what we're trying to do. And incidentally, I happen to be the one that won the Lagos State to set the same type project during the Governor Ambody, but things fell aside. So that same type project is what's going on and ready to go. So we'll be talking later on. I just wanted to, okay, so we could put all of this in place.
Yes.
I just wanted, and the bank I'm working with, he wants to run because he has another, so I figured if there could be a way that we could talk before he leaves, so we could get to know how we put things together, and then we can work on it before you go back. Incidentally, I'm going back next week too.
Okay, sure, we'll definitely talk.
Okay, very good. Sorry about that. I'm Dr. Adeniyi Ogunkoya. I have been out of Nigeria. I won't let anybody know. About 50 years. I practice in the US. I have my own private practice. I've been on the faculty. Kids grown and gone. And I just figured I need to pay back to the country.
I told, is this the one? Okay, I'm in a hurry to go. I actually told her some other things. I'm sure he'll come and tell all of us what it is. That's the general. What I would probably like for you to throw some light on is how to get around this issue of the dollar and the naira fluctuations. It's, I think we should be very concerned about that. All right? It's good to have a long-term loan, low interest rates. Well, how do you cover? I don't know what you guys are looking at in respect of this fluctuations per se. Thank you.
So we are to help structure the Nigerian content portion, right, of the loan, because you have to come to Exim securing the entire budget. We have employed well, first of all, I actually build into, I build into the budgets actually. I would mandatorily do that. Actually, on the U.S. content side, actually, I will build in a contingency for cash investment in the first, on the U.S. side, right? So I'm building a budget capital that is used for debt service, right? Debt service line in the budget of every project. That capital, so those U.S. dollars can be used in treasury function to invest U.S. dollars in the market to hedge against the risk of the Naira fluctuations. And then the index payments, right? The index payments you pay every 3 months or every 6 months for that. And they simply, what they do is follow the index, and then whatever the average is that interest rate you're going to pay on that payment in the 180 days. So that was that's just my first attempt to do that. There's also a way to construct your loan, right? The loan for the Nigerian content that also takes into account capital that you can use to invest and hedge against the risk as well. But I build the debt service line into every project actually, so that we can use U.S. dollars to invest and hedge against the risk. So basically cash function, it's a treasury function, right? I build a treasury function into the budget, right? But I build it in on the U.S. content side, because presumably me or another U.S. firm can actually manage it, right? And then that way. But that's one of the ways. And I'm glad you asked that question, because when we get into a project construction and we go line item by line item for the budget, then that would have been discussed. Because a lot of people are like, why is it a debt service line here? It's a debt service line here because we have to incorporate the fact that we have these currency fluctuations and these differences. So we always assign that. And so as we build these budgets, when we build a budget, we'll decide together what kind of debt service line we have. And believe it or not, Exim Bank never ever balks at it. They simply add the capital to the loan, because I'm simply expanding to them what I'm getting ready to do. See, some of the things is cold law don't get fed. Right? So I'll tell Exim Bank, yes, in this loan that I'm building, I'm going to put cash in here. I'll put this cash in for debt service for the client. And we will treasureize that capital to hedge against the business. And you know what they tell me? That's ingenious. What? I'm a budget officer for the U.S. government, and that's exactly what we do when we submit our budgets. So it's familiar to them. They don't even balk at it. They don't even balk at it. And I usually try to put somewhere between 3 to 7% of what we really need, and 3 to 7% of the actual total U.S. content. And like I said, it's a built-in treasury function. That's basically what it is.
All right. Do we have any last one or two questions or interventions? You won't have to pay any commission to me.
Well, my friend wants me to elaborate on a particular point. In my presentation, I did say that it's a no-risk process. In other words, you have no risk applying. You have no risk applying, because the only thing you pay for is your feasibility studies and business plan that you would do anyway, right? But for the process itself, you pay nothing until drawdown. The 1% we ask for, Mr. Dangana, is not paid until drawdown. So you are not going to pocket until you are sure that you're getting the money, until you are getting the money. All right. right?
Again, I built it into the budget.
So, I mean, it couldn't be better than that. No one is asking for anything up front. Nothing is paid up front.
Good to know that.
Yeah. But
I'll take it.
having said that, please don't send us junk.
It's important I ask this question because I've been involved with applications to some international organizations lately. And one of the things they ask you to do, some of them at that is to say, we want to see your audited accounts from this type of internationally accredited audited firms. Do you have such requirements also in your process? Because we don't want to come back and get being talked down on to say this kind of consultant shouldn't have written your business plan, or this kind of audited firm shouldn't have audited your records in the first place. I think we need to clarify that. Thank you.
Every Nigerian, right? Because the very first project that was brought our way, the lady was rather reluctant to even take the meeting because she was literally dragged in. you could tell that she was resisting, and these two gentlemen were bringing her in and like, just listen. And I said, why? She said, well, if you ask me to bring my bank statement, I'm walking straight out of here. So that means don't even ask me about audit. I said, you know what? I don't even want to know what bank you bank with. So I don't want to know any of that. Just give me a good business plan and financial model. I don't want to know about your financial history. Companies that were created without history have actually been funded. No collateral. In case you didn't ask that one. That should be your next question. Yeah, no collateral involved, right? So, and we don't want to know your bank statement or your banking history for the past. I don't know how many years they asked for. But you also need to submit very good feasibility report. So please don't give it to someone who would waste your time and your money. If you don't have any of those big flyers, or you want to avoid any of those big flyers, you may not go very far. But we can help you come down a little bit to using aviation term to lower altitude. So make it happen.
Tell me you're not a pilot.
Oh, you can come on the ride with me. And that will be your last one.
Good morning, name is Larry Fashua. Alright, so I think they've already asked the question around funding, the sources, but I do have a question around technology transfer. So for some of the organizations we've approached, they've had questions around the end users and control technologies that we're trying to export from the US. So do you guys offer any support in trying to ensure that we don't have verification issues when we're trying to do that, especially for power, nuclear energy and the like? Well, that's one. Two, well, that'll probably be three now. Since the funding question, we've already secured, some funding, we're just looking for a balance. And how does who sits in the White House impact what we're trying to do subsequent to this? Because if that changes, does all of this become, some sort of fantasy if you don't yet have your funding at the time, right? Because, we're trying to get better. Y'all sometimes just trying to get worse, I don't know.
That's our money up in the US, right? And at this particular time, that I don't believe who's in the White House would affect the way that Exim Bank operates. because the purpose is to promote U.S. exports, right, and capital. So that's always going to be something that the U.S. is very interested in, right? It's part of our revenue chain that I don't think we will sacrifice, right? So I don't think we will sacrifice that. We will not do that. As far as technology transfer is concerned, so for each category of industry, those particular authorities in Exim Bank are who set the standards for like tech transfer. We'll run the projects through the heads of those particular branches in Exim Bank, and they'll actually let us know how we facilitate those things for technology projects. And we build that, then they build that into the structure of the loan, along with the sponsor. Because what ends up happening is, I'm kind of like a conduit for Exim, but Exim is going to talk through me to you, and then at some point, when we get to the application phase, we'll all sit down and discuss these issues and build it out to assure that everything is in balance the way it needs to be, right? And especially with technology and intellectual property and all that stuff. They got there's an entire division that is devoted to making sure that those things are done properly when it comes down to the project, especially tech projects, like I said, intellectual property issues and things of that nature. So that process might add time to the completion. Might add time to the completion, but that's a process that they're going to require regardless. When we get to the actual application stage, which comes after the offer, which comes after the LOI. When we get into the details of how we want to structure it and take care of the legal paperwork that you're actually going to have to sign with Exim Bank, all of that is a part of that process. But it comes after they've given you the offer for the capital that they're willing to give to the project. Did I answer all of them?
Yes, it answers it up to the point that there's still some work that we've done after.
Yeah.
Where we struggle, right, is we're not struggling. In some so because this is a control technology, right? So before you can use it and of course, because of some of the risks around activities in the Northeast and all that, So how do we know it's not going to fall into the wrong hands, right? So what we've done obviously is to go through the whole background check, my date of birth, my blood group, oh yes, I'm a real person and all that stuff. But as we're expanding, these questions continue to arise because you're going to have to talk to one or two different organizations. So seeing that then it does look like if you have some of those partnerships already, is this a service you also do provide? So I'm planning to go a way to implement this, but hey, by the way, did you also consider this? We've worked with them before. You seem like if you want to open up,
Yeah, basically, so that's actually what those divisions, right, the industry divisions at Exim, that's what they do. So there's a need to we do that through the technology project division. And so we'll walk through whatever steps we got to walk through to make sure that everything is compliant, make sure it's all compliant. And that process may kind of extend the entire application process, but we'll go through it. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I think that's good.
To Dr. Shebanjo, when you said you will not need my bank statement, if I'm getting the local funding from a local bank in Nigeria, I think that will be needed. Is there anything you want to say about that, please?
Yeah, that statement was, if we are getting you 100%, then you don't need them.
Are you saying that you prefer that 100% you will do 100%?
And that is your choice. if you have, if you want to go with to your Zenith, Starlink, to do your 30%, that means, you know, they will ask you for all the things you get that we talked about. Yes, you will comply, but if you don't go to them for anything, then you don't need them. So they don't need to ask you any questions of this sort.
We're talking about loans. Well, you talked about the 70% from Exim Bank, 30% from a secondary institution. So, are there other opportunities beyond debt? You know, either hybrid, convertible that Mera Astra could, for example, structure. You know, for potential companies like ourselves. Yeah.
Now, we have private, so of course, private finance, right, is always available.
Yeah.
And of course, I do have contacts in the private banking world, right, that might be able to do more, what I guess is more exotic ways of structuring finances, more structured, you know, more exotic stuff. But of course, you know, that stuff is, you know, that those products and people with those expertise generally a little bit more expensive debt, right? Sometimes a little more expensive, right? Especially up front, for sure. Now, for that, the upfront costs for that are generally more expensive. But those products sometimes necessary, right? Sometimes they're necessary. They're available, right, through private finance and structure that I can definitely assist with, right? But yeah, as far as Numiasa doing it, I'm not certain.
Yeah, well, Mera Astra wouldn't do that, but I just question why that would be necessary anyway, because we've had people come to say they were looking for equity. Now, is it cash you want? Because if you have a project that requires working capital, right? The working capital is part of what Exim is probably not going to fund, right? Which you will now get from the secondary lender. Okay. Now, once you have all you need and you are able to function, if you want to go to the market to raise capital, tell me who is not going to participate. Really, because you have all the money you need, you can function, but you just want some other people to be part of your project. I don't think that's going to be too difficult to raise, you know, locally, because in fact, yes, you may have reasons to do that, maybe to assure yourself that, you know, you've got a strong institution backing your facility. But I don't see why you cannot approach any market, any capital market for funding, for shares. If you want to be on the stock exchange, for example, you've got what you need to move on and do that. You are heavily leveraged, yes, but it's good debt. You're not. The debt is not to a Shylock. You've got a long-term loan, and to me, that's a good sell.
Potential equity investment.
Right.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yes, maybe.
You mean for the U.S.?
No. You see,
For the sponsor.
Yes, for the sponsor.
Oh,
Yes. So how do you deal with this?
Well,
I don't think it's something that should be encouraged. Because, see, well, I'm not a finance person, I'm just thinking loose. And I'm doing well, and I think I want to expand. Part of the assets that I have is what I'm going to pledge. I mean, you want to know what I'm doing.
yeah.
How big are you? I'm as big as my assets are, all right? But they're not mine.
Well,
Yes, until 10 years or so later. So how do you...
Well, they're not free assets.
They're not free assets.
they're not free assets.
Incumbent.
There you go.
They're encumbered.
Yeah,
There.
but But there's a difference here.
Oh,
There's a different coloration to the scenario.
that's my cash flow. It's my cash flow.
Exactly. You have all the equipment you need, unless, and this is why we always say, don't shorten yourself. Go for what will actually produce your dream.
That's
so
right.
if you need to produce 10,000 units of anything, please don't go for 500. If 10,000 is what's going to make you go up there, don't go for 500.
That's okay.
My name is Albert. My question, I'm thinking agriculture and thinking also about the equipment and all of that. But of recent, I've visited some farms with a friend, and I observed that there are some costs that are even higher than the equipment, and it's security cost. We went with, as if we were going for a war and all that, just to go to the farm. So, accountant will be factoring in those costs into your business plan and all of that. And so definitely, I observed some of those accountants also struggle with the promoters, trying to trivialize all those costs as if they shouldn't be that much and all that. But if you're not in the system, the project is gone. So how do you, what do you think around those costs that they may not be able to substantiate, particularly? And of course, we also talk about having not been interested in who put together the proposal and all of that. I actually one of those who prepared those proposals. I work for Pedawol, one of those firms, and I think some clarification would be good here. Thank you.
As long as we put it in the budget, man, it's not going to lose that. Justifiably, right? I think everybody looked at it. Yeah, we do, we keep tabs on every country in the world. We know risk. We know the risk is, we keep tabs on that. So security costs in the project, and agricultural project, or for that matter, an oil and gas project in Nigeria is generally in the budget in the first place. Right. Now, how are you going to generate, does your feasibility and revenue statement cover the cost of the security? You put it this way, if the two don't match, I'm not going to supply, I'm not going to apply, I'm not going to submit it anyway. Right? I'm not going to do that. Now, look, I am a CFO now. The numbers have got to work before I put my reputation on the line with my contacts at Exxon Bank. Let me make this plain. Very nice person, but I am the chief financial officer at my core. So when we build these budgets and project plans out, they will be scrutinized. You will experience more scrutiny from me than you will from Exxon Bank, I guarantee you. By the time I get to submission, to submit your project, I can almost guarantee it's only going to take them to 14 days to process it to give me my LOI. Because the relationship between us, me, and you, and how we build your project out to be fundable will be excruciating to some who are uncomfortable talking about realities of finance. But when we finish that process, 99.9% sure Exxon Bank is going to give me the thumbs up and we can move forward. And then we take it to the next stage. The content that they require from you, we're going to go through a similar process to make sure that the capital that you need to bring to the table to appease Exxon Bank is there. Otherwise, it's all for naught. I'm not standing on Mother Africa soil, all for naught. That's not why I'm here. All right? Be rest assured in that. That's for sure.
Not all agriculture will need to exist in areas of high risk. Not all. I will explain. If you come back for our next session, US companies are developing systems that within a 40-foot container, you can actually grow 35 acres. Within a 40-foot container, you can grow 35 acres. Now, not all plants, not all plants have been developed to do this, but if you have specifics and you work with these guys, they can develop it for you. So I know for cattle ranching, for example, you don't need massive amounts of land anymore, because in a 40-foot container you can generate 400 kilograms of barley to feed your cattle per day. And for how much? For $200,000. So multiply that by whatever number of animals you want to feed. You can actually do it on a plot of land. So I would say, if you see any challenges, let's see how we can push guys to develop things to solve those problems. Because we don't have to risk lives just because we want to feed our country, to lose our people until the security situation stabilizes. We can use technology to protect ourselves in the meantime. And we have people who are ready to work with us. Like I said, it's not all agricultural products that will work.
Any can palm tree will interest you.
That will be. I don't know if it will because of the nature of it, but let's give it a shot, because it depends on what stage of it. It depends.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Might be looking forward to, including agriculture, that the gentleman here expressed interest in. And then secondly, because of the presentation that Mr. Abbas made earlier, and people who expressed interest in having it by email, for those who may not have dropped their emails with our staff out there, please, we encourage you to leave your, if your business cards contain your email, that's fine. Otherwise, we just ask you to kindly